Buon tardi. Welcome to Innovation C, our first mini digital conference of 2021. And this is going to be an exciting year. After so many trials and errors from last year, I think this year we are well prepared to start doing very well. Let me start by introducing ourselves. I have a little issue here with a document. Hold on, please. As Innovation C, we bring experience to you with the intention of educating you, empowering you. We are a learning school with the basics that are very important, but the best learning comes from experience. With 15 digital conferences under our belt, we start a new year with a new cycle of inspiring speakers who are all innovators in their own way, on their own terms and in their own field. For Curaçao to become stronger out of this pandemic, we need to bundle our experiences and educate each other. União tasi forza, toch? Today, we do that with women in legal. Two ladies, two entrepreneurs who have built their name in their legal practices. One born in Amsterdam, but adopted by the island as she adapted to the island's ways. And one born and raised on Curaçao, who knows her community and culture through and through, with several seats at local governance boards. With a growing faculty of law at the University of Curaçao, we dive deeper in the legal world and the diversity we encountered with the intention to benefit us all and understanding who these lawyers are that are representing our communities. With Didi Wildeman and Sueena Fransisco, we from Innovation C feel we are bringing you a reflection of our community. The import and the export of skills and knowledge. That they are both powerful and inspiring women can only be considered a plus. But the most important is that they both had to work and dedicate themselves to their vision of their future. That requires innovation from their part. As Innovation C is growing its pioneers talent pool of Curaçao, local and international, we would like you to be part of this community as well. Didi, Sueena, and all of us at Innovation C can do our work, but without you, there is no us. We'll be later explaining to you how you can join our Pioneers Talent Pool. The Pioneers Talent Pool is a growing community of Curaçao all over the world. But before we continue with that, here are some tips for an even better experience. Turn off the notifications of your phone so you can focus on the speakers. You can also turn off the notification in Livestorm. Use a headset or earpiece to avoid getting distracted. Feel free to communicate in the chat section, but don't share too many private informations. If you have a question that you want answered by the speakers, ask it in the question tab, and we will do our best to address it in the roundtable. Be respectful. We don't have to agree on everything. So that's basically our guidelines for you. In the back, you saw the post popping up while I was reading my little edit to you. That's done by my lovely assistant, Diana Cecilia, who is always here. She's always also going to be a co-host, so you'll see her in the chat, and you will also see her at the round table at the end. But that's the introduction for today. I would say, Didi, can you please come in screen so we can introduce you properly? Didi is going to be our first speaker. As always, I had a talk with both our speakers before here, and with Didi, it's clear that she works in the legal world. She's a very good speaker. So I don't think I need to introduce her too much. But Didi, are you a little bit nervous, or did you prepare so well that this is going to be a piece of cake?
No, well, I hope it's going to be a piece of cake. And if it's a challenge, I always love a challenge. So no, I was very busy with a lot of cases, but I hope I can bring you some interesting legal head pointers today.
That, and also I want to know who Didi is, because although I know, the other people might not know. What is very funny always with these digital conferences, we have to go look for the speakers, and you get unexpected interactions. And I have to say, with two lawyers, I was a little bit nervous. I'm always a little bit nervous to do these webinars and digital conferences, but to have two lawyers, for some reason, that was extra nerve-wracking. But I have to say, you both ladies made it very smooth transition for me to start back in the year. So with that being said, you're going to be the first speaker of 2021. I would say, take the floor. Please share your presentation. And I don't know if I just kick some butt.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. And you already introduced me a little bit. Thank you for that, Andy, and also thank you for inviting me to this first digital conference of 2021. Well, as Andy already said, my name is Didi Wildeman, born and raised in Amsterdam, and I am a lawyer on the island since 2014. In 2019, I opened my own firm, and I had the idea to bring to introduce actually a more human side to legal practice. And he was already telling you that it was a little bit nerve-wracking for him to approach us as female lawyers, or as lawyers in fact. And that is exactly what I believe a lot of clients experience before they approach a lawyer. Often people have the idea that lawyers are very distant, that we only communicate in legal terms that are not completely understandable for you guys if you seek for legal aid. And last but not least, obviously, people are also most of the times very afraid that legal aid can be very expensive. And therefore, what I noticed is that the bar is very high to approach a lawyer. And people most of the time approach a lawyer when the house is already on fire. And for me, as a very social person, I always aim that my clients can tell their story and just let me think with them as a legal expert in terms of growth, in terms of business opportunities, in terms of impending conflicts. So that we can prevent as much as possible, and also that once you take a step to in your business or you want to grow, that you can involve a lawyer and think with you or think along with you on your business idea. So 2 years ago, I started my own firm on my own, and now we are working with 4 people. So I have 2 other colleagues, Bradley Stewart and Jessuit Baart, and they are working with in our firm as legal advisors. And then I also have my assistant, Elisabeth Kok, and she also has her own assistant company. And I address that because nowadays you see that people are, so let me in the meantime go to the other slide. But you see nowadays, due to the massive layoffs that we are facing in times of the pandemic, but also the entrepreneurial spirit that we have on the island, that a lot of people are starting their own company or working in smaller corporations, so that they can develop their own talents for being a business owner. So what I'm going to share with you today are some pointers, some legal pointers regarding agreements and current agreements that we have, new agreements that we want to enter into, and how to address that in very challenging times of change. We all are aware what COVID has done to the economy, what COVID has done to our businesses. So I hope that at the end of this presentation, you feel more informed about what do you do if your business partner cannot comply with your contractual obligations, with the contractual obligations. I want to talk to you about entering into new agreements during this pandemic. Also, what I experience is a lot of employers who facing a lot of challenges during these times. So I wanted to address that as well, how to handle the pandemic as an employer. And last but not least, I want to discuss 2 court rulings with you guys, so that you also can be a little bit aware of, if you do not involve a lawyer on time, what can happen to your business. Okay, so first of all, what should you do as a business owner if you notice that your business partner cannot meet your current the current obligations? Well, most of the time in our contracts, in our legal system, you find a clause that is called a force majeure clause. And that means that it's actually a legal concept to an event or circumstance which prevents a party's ability to perform its contractual obligations. When you think about these kind of situations, what you need to think about is situations that happen beyond our control. So most of the time, we think that when we write an agreement, or what I see that clients think is, we write an agreement, so we have done the formal part and then it's okay. But actually deep inside, we think, well, everything will go as planned and everything will work out. But that's not for us as lawyers and legal advisors why we advise you to put your agreements in writing. We advise you to put your agreements in writing for a situation on which you cannot foresee that will happen, or that there are circumstances that you did not that the working relation did not go as planned, so that you have written out how you should treat your current obligations once you come into a situation where that you did not foresee. So what we see now, the current pandemic, that's a situation that we did not foresee, but also 13 years ago with the financial crisis, that was also a situation that we did not foresee, but it impacted a lot of business owners, and also obviously the global economic developments and people who could not pay the rent of their office buildings anymore, or they could not pay employees anymore. So, and that's actually now, since the pandemic, also the same case. And what you also see is, I also have a lot of clients who work in construction. What you see is that they are also depending on their suppliers for supplying the materials that they need, and they're facing massive delays. So that are circumstances that you can think ahead how you have to deal with that kind of circumstances and put it in your agreement up front. So what I want to address regarding the force majeure clause is that most of the times when you have a force majeure clause, what does it mean if you want to address that, and if you want to say, well, is this a force majeure situation? Well, one of the legal consequences of that is that the obligations based on the contract are put on hold until the situation has ended. And but also can be one of the consequences is that parties want to end the agreement, or they want to adjust the agreement. But if you want to do that, and then you can also, that's why I wrote it down, you can also negotiate together on how you want to adjust it. Or so for your business partner or the other party to meet up to their obligations and can meet up to their obligations. Because, for example, if you take like a rental agreement and you see that the lessee cannot pay the rent anymore, is it preferable to end the agreement, knowing that the lessor then needs to find another lessee and the lessee needs to find another office building to work in? So that most of the times is not the preferred consequence of dealing with unforeseen circumstances. So you can negotiate together on how you can adjust the made agreements. If you do not want to negotiate, there's another option. That option is more expensive and it's also more time consumable. You can address the court and ask the court, based on unforeseen circumstances, to adjust the agreements, or to dissolve the agreement in full, or to dissolve the agreement partially. And what we see in court is that judges are very reluctant to interfere in agreements between parties. But based on the fact that our current pandemic is an unprecedented situation, we have seen that the court ruled in some cases and was prepared to act in that situations. And if the court come up with a verdict, then parties do not have the freedom to discuss all their new arrangements that have to be made. So what I always advise to my clients is, if there's an option to discuss it, to address the situation, because we're all aware of the circumstances of COVID-19 and what it does to our economy. So you can say, on one hand, well, you're my business partner, we came up with that agreement, and now you have to live up to your obligations. But if that's not possible in a situation, if that's really not possible, why should you immediately end the business relationship with all the extra costs and with all the extra time consuming and maybe all the extra hassle that you have from that? So what I advise is to negotiate regarding the unforeseen circumstances. Then I want to talk a little bit more about the force majeure clause. We mostly advise business owners to spell out the terms in a contract of a force majeure clause, and the consequences. So which situations do you find a force majeure clause? What you see nowadays is that obviously situations as a pandemic are also taken into the contract. And what is also very important to consider in international contracts, because what I understood is that, and what I see is that obviously a lot of business owners here on the island also do business with people in the Netherlands or with other jurisdictions, with people in America. What is very important to be aware of is that the concept of force majeure exists in our civil law system, but it does not exist in common law jurisdictions such as England, such as the United States. In these jurisdictions, you have to, you can only invoke the force majeure if the contract includes such a clause. So for us, it actually you can rely on the law, and you can address it based on the law, that there is a force majeure situation. But if you do business with another party, like in America, and you do not have it in the contract, and maybe the laws of the United States are applicable, then you cannot invoke the force majeure situation. So we always advise to take up the clause, spell out all the terms in the contract. And what is also very important is that you realize as a business owner that a force majeure clause is not a wild card, and that you cannot contribute to the fact that you cannot live up to the obligations that you have. What cannot be excluded is the fact that you're liable based on your own fault. So that is something that I wanted to address. But again, for international contracts, please be aware and that our civil law system is not the same as the common law system, and that we have a lot of differences. That also applies for the law system here in Curaçao and the law system in the Netherlands. Most of the time we think, well, that's the same, but we have we have a lot of differences between our law system and the law system in the Netherlands, and especially for labor law, there are a lot of differences there. So what is also the last thing that I want to talk to you about is the fact that spelling out the terms also is very important, because we as business owners have a lot of expectations most of the time from how the business relation is going and how the assignment will go. But what you also see is that your business partner could not have the same expectations as you have. And that's very, very logical, actually. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have different work ethics. So if you have expectations and you do not talk to your business partner about those expectations, and you can know someone for a long time as a friend, or you can know someone from school, or here in our small society, everyone knows everyone. So, but it's very different to know someone than to work with someone. So. Also, based on the fact that we all have different expectations from a working relationship, it is very important to spell out terms, and that is one of the things that lawyers and legal advisors can help you with doing. All right, so now I would like to talk to you about how to handle the pandemic as an employer. We see a lot in labor law land, as I always call it. What we see nowadays is obviously that employers facing very challenging times based on the fact that they have to close their business due to government rules and regulations, that they cannot pay their employees anymore, or that they are facing safety issues that they never thought of, that they're facing situations where employees need to work from home, working hours. So it can be really hard in these times as an employer. And also because employees have a lot of expectations. And first of all, they have the expectation that they will receive their salary every end of the month. So that can be very challenging. The other week, I was talking with a client of mine, and he told me that he had a problem with his employees, that they did not comply with the working hours. So I asked them, did you explain to them what the working hours were? Yes, he did that. So I told him, okay, but what is for you the most important thing that your people, because it's an IT business, so I'm not good with IT, it stresses me out, but what he was telling me is, well, yeah, for troubleshooting and for if a client asks for help, they need to be there to answer the question and to support the client with their IT issues. Okay. So I asked him, okay, but can that be done in distance form, or does your employee needs to be there with the client to help the client? Well, and he said, well, yeah, clients prefer that we come by to their office. I said, okay, but then still they are mobile and flexible, right? So, but what is for you so important regarding your clients? Well, yeah, meeting the expectations of my clients. So we all can imagine if we have problems with our computer. I had that the other evening, and I was very stressed about it. You want to just call your IT person to help you, and you want your IT problem to be fixed very fast. So I said to him, okay, so you want your employees to answer the questions very fast. So I said to him, okay, why don't we think about a new instructions that you can put out in a company, where you say, well, we have a new rule, or we have a rule where we say, if a client asks for IT support, you have to answer it within a half an hour or within an hour. And if he or she has to, if not exactly 8 o'clock at the work floor, then what is more important, that your clients can that your employees can live up to the expectations of your clients, or that they have to be there in the workplace. Okay, so I see that Andy already sent me a note that I have to round up, so that's always my problem. I always talk too much. So I'm going to speed it up a little bit. So what I wanted to end the part of the employer with is that what is very important during these times is that you take your employees with you in the way that you think, in the way that where you want to go with your business, so that they can understand that they can identify themselves with the changes made, and for you also to be flexible, to be open-minded, but also to communicate. Employers have the tendency just to decide and decide how to go further without communicate with the employees what the process will be to a certain change. Okay, so I have not so much time anymore. So next time, Andy, I want more speaking time. I did not negotiate with you on that one. But for now, I just want to wrap it up with a situation where what I promised you at the beginning of my presentation, regarding an employer who has a restaurant, and when the pandemic came, they actually confronted their employees with two situations. First of all, well, we're not going to pay salary anymore immediately. You can choose if you want to have an on-call agreement, or that we're going to terminate your agreement. So one of the employees obviously could not agree on those propositions. And based on his reaction, the employer said, well, okay, then if you do not agree, then we consider your letter as a resignment letter. So the employee started a procedure where the judge says, well, employer and employee needs to sorry, I was looking at what Renata was writing. Employer and employee needs to act based on the principles of good employment, which means that an employee also might seriously consider some amendments to the labor agreement, and they need to be based on on fairness and reasonableness. But the fact that the employer confronted the employee with an immediately stop of paying salary, the judge said, well, this is not a reasonable proposition. The employee obviously just asked the judge to rule that the employer needed to pay the salary again, and the judge decided to go along with that request. So as an employer, please do not, and I'm going to wrap it up, please do not only give instructions or tell the employees, well, from now on you're going to work less hours or you need to take vacation days. No, discuss it, communicate it, be flexible about it. And if you're not a good communicator, because you are a very good business owner but not a good communicator with your employees, please call a lawyer or a legal advisor to help you with that, because it will help you prevent a lot of problems and maybe also court cases. So the other court ruling that I wanted to discuss, I guess based on the time, I do not have time anymore. So I will share that later on with Andy. And hi, Andy.
Hi, finish your talk.
Yes, I will discuss later on with Andy how I can share that with you guys, because that's about a commercial lease agreement, and we also see that very often these days, that business owners cannot pay the rent anymore of the property that they are renting. So I will get back to you on that one.
Thank you, Didi. It's are the nerves a little bit? Can you feel them now?
No, actually, now I'm very calm. It was fun.
It's always fun with time when you're waiting. It seems like the time goes forever, and once you're busy, the time goes way too fast. So I saw this happening with you as well. Was it a lot that you didn't get through, or just a little bit?
No, just a little bit.
Well, we're looking into creating workshops, especially for the people that want to go more deep into legal, so that will be one thing of the future, and you're definitely on a radar for that. I do have one question before I continue with this. Because of COVID, the whole pandemic and everything, did that result in you having more clients or less clients? Because of one side, you have the economy went down very bad, but on the other side, there are more people losing their jobs and more businesses in trouble. So how did that weigh out for you?
Yeah, well, for me, I am very, very busy right now. So I definitely see an increase in clients. But if I look back from 2 years ago, it was always going, I started with 5 clients and it was always going very fast up. That's the reason why we now work with 3 legal advisors instead of me alone, because it's too much work, and I always find quality more important than quantity. So I want to have enough time for my clients to advise them properly, to guide them properly. But I see, because we're now in a situation where with unforeseen circumstances, so everything is new. People don't anticipate it. Business owners did not anticipate it on these situations. And what I always hope to do and aim to do is also give them advice for the future. So I would love them to call me and to ask me for my help and guidance, but only if it's really necessary. I also want to guide my clients to be more independent and more certain of more self-verzekerd. Ik weet niet dat. I really don't know the word for that. And
more confident.
Yeah, more confident in the next steps that they take. So.
Okay. Very cool. I'm going to thank you. You can't hear it because it's we are in a digital form, but I'm pretty sure that people have applauded for you for your talk. I'll see you back in the round table, so don't go too far. Drink that glass of water, refill it, breathe through it, and I'll see you after Sueena. I'm going to remove you off stage, and thank you very much, Didi.
You're welcome.
Oh, that was a little bit too quick. So that was our first speaker. It's always interesting to be the first speaker. It's always a little bit extra demanding. So, but then on the other side, then you have Sueena that's been sitting there for already 15, 20 minutes waiting for her to come on stage. So that's not easy as well. So I'm going to ask Sueena, can you please come on stage when you're ready? In the meanwhile, to the ones that want to know more about our talent pool at the round table, I will be sharing a link so you can register for the talent pool. The talent pool is supported also by our Ministry of Economic Affairs. Hi, Sueena. Good afternoon. How are you feeling?
Good afternoon. I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm very excited to hear your talk as well. I'm not going to introduce you too much because I think you can do that way better, but I do want to thank you extra because you had an extra challenge coming in today, and here you are. Even though you weren't feeling too good, you are there and you're looking very, very good and very energetic. So I hope that with your talk we can inspire more people on what's so important that you're here even when you're not feeling good.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to give you the stage and let you go at it. Toi, toi, toi.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I moved the chat box away so I will not be distracted. And I'm happy for the invitation from Innovation C to talk to you today under the topic Women in Legal. I have chosen to share with you my personal story in the journey I had to reach where I am today, and hopefully it will inspire you, empower you, give you some insights on some mistakes I made and how to deal with it another way, and grow in whichever area of opportunity you have. Let me share my presentation. I think it's this, yeah, this one. And then let me see how I can get, perhaps Andy will have to help me on how I get myself next to the presentation. Andy, can you help me? Andy, are you there? Oriana?
Yes. No, I'm here. I'm trying to get you next to the presentation, but
okay, it's perfect. Yes.
I'm going to remove myself and see if it's working then. But normally you see yourself small. With Didi, it was the first time that they were equal size. So
okay.
I a new option from Live Store. I'll remove myself again. Go for it.
Thank you so much. Okay, the other side of fear, my personal story, like I mentioned. This is me a couple of years ago, not too long ago. A young, energetic, ambitious, and feisty little Sueena, who as a child was already ready to defend the ones who unjust, in my opinion, was done to, ready to fight for justice and create peace. In my youth, I developed an interest for law, basically based on the Hollywood movies, the interesting TV series, Law and Order, and the like, without a background in law within the family or any knowledge whatsoever. In any event, after I graduated from high school, I enrolled in the Utrecht University where I studied law. Very early in my studies, I developed an interest in international public law. I completed my bachelor, and in my master's, I focused on international and European law with a major in human rights. I had a wonderful international exchange experience, which brought me to the United States, Washington, D.C. And there I decided to continue my studies within the international area. I focused on a master in international legal studies, again, human rights, this time also international policies and international criminal law. My time in DC, totally 2 years, was wonderful. I had amazing opportunities, amazing internships from internships with the ambassadors of the United Nations to human rights organizations such as Amnesty International. I was doubting whether I wanted to show you these pictures right now, but I'm actually very proud of these pictures. Back then, I was interning at Amnesty International on the section or on the department which was focusing on protecting the rights of the Guantanamo Bay prisoners, their habeas corpus rights. And during that time, next to these activities, these events, we also had the chance to sit in hearings of the Senate of the United States and the House of Congress to discuss the habeas corpus rights of these prisoners. My supervisor, a lady with whom till today I have a deep friendship, was also one of the few human rights activists or human rights observers to fly to Guantanamo Bay to attend the hearing. So it was a wonderful experience. I graduated, and this is the lady I was talking about, Jumana Musa, my supervisor back then. Wonderful internship, wonderful opportunities, and a feisty lady as well, who I've learned a lot from personally. And I was ready to change the world in the area of international human rights. I would change the world. I was, I believe, 22 when I graduated. I had a student visa, and you were allowed on your student visa, if you would get a job, to stay 1 year in the US for work experience. I could stay at Amnesty, but as you may imagine, their funds were not too big. There was no official function available. So if I would stay, that would be on a small allowance, which would certainly not be sufficient to pay the student debt, the American student debt that I built. So that was not an option. I started applying for jobs in the international human rights fields or international policies fields. And that was my first experience with the real world, experience of rejection. I applied in the US. I applied at, my wish was to be a staff attorney at the International Human Rights Courts. So either the European Court of Human Rights, or the International Court of Justice, or the International Criminal Court. The competition was amazing. If you do not have a network, you do not have unpaid experience for a couple of years, it's very difficult to get through. So I would hear too young, no experience, not qualified, no affinity in that area. I have to say, for the European Courts of Human Rights, I did pass the concours to a very far stage, but at the end, no network. So I had to rethink what I would do. I decided that I wanted to go back to the Netherlands, and I wanted to have a good basic legal baggage. And I figured that you would get that at a law firm, a commercial law firm where you would have the 3 years of what they call advocaat stagiaire. So the 3 years of the working trainee program to learn the skills as an attorney, but also to learn to get the finesse of the legal art. So I went back with a lot of energy, accepting that I did not get a job in the area of the international human rights, international policies. And I applied immediately for one of the big firms, Zuidas. That was cool. I got selected for an interview based on my letter, and I went there, and I had a first interview with 2 partners, and the questions were hard, and I didn't have answers. Questions as, I see that you major in human rights. We advise Shell. Would you have a problem with defending Shell for a oil leakage, some environmental claim? And those were the questions that I got. And at the end, one of the partners actually said, "What are you doing here, actually?" So as you can imagine, I didn't get a job. And after my emotions sank, and I thought about how that talk went, and I thought about why would they even invite me if they wanted to be so nasty to me. I considered that I was not prepared, and that was that's something I carry with me until this day. For whatever you do, be prepared. And the fact that they invited me based on my profile, which had no commercial part in it whatsoever, other than a basic course of trade law. I never had corporate law, finance and the law, or any of these things. There was something that they saw, and I had to understand that. I also had to understand that I had to be able to explain why I was doing what I wanted to do, or why I was making the changes I wanted to make. So after I realized that, I took a step back. Here I was with 2 masters, a great CV with a bunch of experience, ready to work. And I decided, you know what? Take a step back. Go do your internships with these commercial law firms. I decided to apply for an internship at a commercial law firm and also an internship at a social law firm to also be able later on to explain why I wanted to, why I preferred, for example, the commercial law firm. I did so, it went well, and I tried again. I applied again at 2 commercial law firms, and I got accepted. I got offered a job. I got offered a position as a junior attorney. What I also wanted to say, we don't like you. That's also indeed something that I did hurt. They would tell you then that there's no fit. I used to have a problem with that, but it's okay, because you do want to be in an environment where you do feel a fit. Because once you're in an environment where you do feel a fit, you can perform and you can grow. 2008, after 2 internships and applying for the process again, doing the assessments and what you have you not, I got a job at one of the firms, bigger firms in the Netherlands called Houthoff Buurema. Very proud, finally made it. And fast forward 2008, 2017, this is what I've been through. Houthoff Buurema, the interesting part is that I was placed at the mergers and acquisitions section, department, where my first experience with the law was capital markets. Once again, human rights background and no experience whatsoever in this area of the law. But it takes focus, willingness, and determination to gain the experience, and I was determined to do so. And I was very, very, very what's the correct word here? Grateful for the opportunities that this big firm had to offer me. Talking about how you start there as a trainee with more trainees in the same situations, having different trainings, wonderful back office, library, interesting partners to learn from. It was a wonderful experience. So I remained for 2 years on the merger and acquisition section with a focus on capital markets. I switched later on to corporate litigation, where I gained litigation experience. What was important here in this part of my life, I did not lose my interest in human rights. I did not lose my ideal vision of how the world would be. So what did I commit myself to? I said, you know, I do want to work in this commercial area. I want to try it for 3 years, get the experience, and then look if I can go again international. But I want to continue to give back where I can to the communities based on my ideals and vision on human rights. So that is when I started focusing on our people. So in the Netherlands, I engaged in several organizations who worked for the Curaçao and Aruba and St. Martin people in the Netherlands. It is during that phase of my life that I got acquainted with Van Epps Kunneman van Doorne. Because also good for you to know, I was born in Curaçao, but I was raised in the Netherlands. I lived in total 24 years in the Netherlands, so I had no connection other than a vacation, actually, with the island. So in that time when I focused on, you know, I want to be an ambassador for my background and to know where I'm from, I gained also experience with the Curaçao law firms, one of them being Van Epps Kunneman van Doorne. They approached me and offered me if I wanted to apply for a position. And in my period of giving back to the community, I also started gaining more interest in where I came from, my island. I didn't know my island whatsoever. So I took the opportunity and I came to Curaçao to work for Van Epps Kunneman van Doorne. It was a great shift from a big firm, 300 lawyers, to a what we would call in the Netherlands a mid-sized firm, 35 to 40 lawyers, but for our region, a big firm. It was also a very interesting shift from being a specialist in a firm like Hout of Burema, working on the M&A section. I was only doing predominantly capital markets, later on also doing more corporate transactions, towards here at Van Epps Kunneman van Doorne, actually being able to do everything. You are confronted with everything and you become more a generalist in the field of corporate law, which I enjoyed a lot. What I also enjoyed and what I also appreciate from my time at Van Epps Kunneman van Doorne is the fact that in a very fast period of time, you are challenged to grow. You are challenged to grow within the profession, which I also appreciated a lot. So within a short period of time, handling your own cases and developing yourself as a standalone lawyer. After a few years at Van Epps Kunneman van Doorne, I reached a point where I had to reshift my focus. I had already decided that I liked the commercial field, and that next to the commercial field, I wanted to keep on involving in human rights within my opportunities, my possibilities. So where I was in the Netherlands, focusing a lot on the organizations with an interest on the Antillean people. In Curaçao, I engaged in other projects to give back to the community in the area of human rights. So I have been always, since I've been working, focusing on the commercial law, but also giving back to the community. And my time was only doing that. And as you can imagine, within the commercial field, Those who are watching right now, who are in the field, know that is a competitive field. It is a time-demanding field. It is an ambitious field, and you do want to grow. And that was the aim I had as well. And something has to give. Something has to give. So my health started to give, and my balance started to give in other things not being projects and the commercial field in which I was operating. I reached the point, as I mentioned, that I had to reshift my focus. And when I decided to, when I had that hard stop, because sometimes life will just stop you. When I had that hard stop, and I had that honest conversation with myself, I decided, you know, I like the area of law. That is what I love to do. The field that I'm in, or the environment that I'm in right now, would not be the environment for me anymore, because I would be losing myself under these circumstances. I need to take a step back. And taking a step back, I consider that as a failure, because what I was raised with, and what you also see, and I speak from my experience once again, what you also see in this field is that once you start at a firm, the only way is up. And if you're out, you're a failure. And I needed a life lesson to explain to me that that definitely is not the case. So once I took that step, that I didn't need to, I had to rewire my mind that the only way is up within the firm, I decided that I wanted to leave the firm. I left the firm, and I also decided that I wanted to leave the private area, or the advocatenland. So I decided that I got the opportunity to join a private company, public and formerly public state enterprise. I joined UTS as a legal counsel, and there I became a boardroom advisor with a predominant focus on corporate governance and on corporate aspects. The interesting journey there was that you learn in these areas that the law is a substitute of the commercial interest, and sometimes the law is even substitute to strategic and political interests. So in this company, I had a wonderful experience with how to deal with different stakeholders, how to deal with the commercial interest, and how to advise legally, keeping all these interests in mind, and making sure that your legal advice would not necessarily undermine the commercial interest. However, it has to protect the interest of the company. So that playing field for me, to see that on the first line, was very interesting, very, very interesting. What I did find out at UTS, despite of this wonderful experience, is that I am an attorney, and that what I would do, what I want to do the most, what I love to do the most, is to advise clients on a numerous of areas within corporate law. I came to the realization that I wanted to go back to the private area, or advocatenland. However, I wanted to do it on my own terms. I did not want to get lost again in my based on my personal journey. I did not want to get lost again the same way I came to be lost in 2015. Having said that, I considered the big step of becoming an entrepreneur. Again, very challenging change, and letting go of safety, letting go of a salary, letting go of a job. My time is almost up. I'm almost done also. And in 2017, I joined the law firm Wildeman Legal Partners, which was actually established by former colleagues of mine. And the interesting thing is that we share the same vision. We share the same vision in you can do high qualified legal work while having the balance that you need. And what we focus on is the flexibility that you have as an individual, focusing on the commitments that you make to your partners and your clients. Those commitments are important. Do comply with them. But other than that, there is a flexibility to balance your life. So remote working, what we're now experiencing in the pandemic, is something that we actually within our firm see as common. Balancing your days is something within our firm that we see as common. We believe also in a human approach, tailored, more conform prices against high-level advices. We do that because we keep our overhead low. We are a partner-only firm, and we try to offer you a one-shop model in which you get the high-level experts on every area which has a connection with corporate law as a basic. The step towards an entrepreneur was, as I said, very challenging. Once again, I had been out of the field for two years, I believe. So I had to really build up my name again. I started off with very small opportunities or very small assignments, or working in cases of other partners. But this is the one thing that I really want to share with you, Andy, if you permit me. After a couple of months, when I was working, when I was joining the firm, there was this client who came by, and he needed assistance in corporate law. It was a humongous case, and he sat with us, sat with me and my partner, and I would then be the corporate law expert. And he said, you know what? I've been to 6 firms already. They all have a conflict. And at the 6th firm, I gave up and I told them who else, and they referred me to you. This is the case that I have. Do you think you can do it? It was a very big, and public, it had the public attention. I said, of course I can do it. Of course. I was scared as hell. I was incredibly scared because I already knew that the counterparties were assisted by those 6 firms that rejected. And I have a major respect for the partners at those firms. And here am I, little Sueena, back in the day, trying to keep it up against those firms. We won the case, and what it needed for me was discipline, focus, consistency, commitment, and not being afraid of it. I said yes. I went for it. I got that one chance, and from that one chance, an amazing spin-off resulted, which led to me having a wonderful practice right now with interesting clients within Curaçao and outside of Curaçao, which I cherish deeply. During the roundtable, I will also give an example of a great failure I had during my time at Oxen Wolf, but I think we're over time. Thank you so much.
We are a little bit, but Didi warned me already that lawyers love to talk, so I was prepared for that. It's okay. I still believe you have one more slide, so please share that one, and then we'll continue with the round table.
Too bad I couldn't share this failure right now. I will share it later with you. But when you embrace opportunity and give yourself a chance to fail, you cannot only learn how to succeed, but you might find yourself successful after all. Thank you so much.
Good quote. I love it. Gonna leave that for just a little bit so that people can read. In the meanwhile, I'm asking Didi to come back, and of course, Rianne, my co-host for today, also to come online. Sueena, thank you so very much for being there. When you embrace opportunity and give yourself a chance to fail, you can not only learn how to succeed, but you might find yourself successful after all. It's kind of like the quote that I have right here in the back of me that says, "You're not perfect, period. So own it." So, and that's why I'm going to close your presentation, give you a little moment to breathe. And there I am again, surrounded by all ladies. We haven't heard from Rianne yet. So Rianne, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, I'm doing well. And yeah, just first of all, thank you ladies for the presentations. So very insightful, I think informative, Sueena, and I think also applauding you for opening up, sharing your personal story, because it is personal, or at least I would consider it personal, and to be so courageous. So thank you for that as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much, because I think that's exactly what not just students, but also people who just come in the workforce, and even people that have already been 10 or 20 years in the workforce, but always kept a certain composure. It's very important to see that human side as well. And during our talk, I already felt with both Sueena and Didi, I'm not just dealing with lawyers, I'm dealing actually with human beings that have experienced a lot to get in the position where you're at. Do you, Didi is offline for a second. Oh, there she is. Didi, you had some time to recuperate after your talk. How are you feeling now? Are you breathing again?
Yes, actually I am. Was it so obvious that I was not during her presentation? No, I was listening to Sueena's presentation, and I could relate on a lot of areas in the things that she was telling. So that confirmed, well, how do I say that? Bevestigd for me that I am on the good path, also with the next generation that is currently working at my firm. And let them completely be themselves and develop as a professional in their unique way and their unique character.
Yeah, you have two paralegals working with you that are finishing their studies right now, if I'm correct. I wanna ask you a personal question in a bit. How your the end of your study was to start in the real world. I'm going to give you a chance to think about that, how you're going to tell that. First, I'm going to, Sueena, now that you have seen the others and you got a chance to have a little breather, are you happy with your presentation? Are you at ease?
Yeah, it's my story. And of course, I wanted to finish it, but that's okay. We lawyers, we do talk a lot, so...
It's funny because you gave me the name from another lawyer, Melissa Vasquez, and I also had a very good talk with her. And it's amazing how good you're all speakers and how many stories you have to tell. So I definitely think we do have to do another session with you guys. Sorry, ladies. But first, I mean, after hearing the story of Sueena, I would really like to hear that. In as short as you can, Didi, how it was for you finishing your studies, because that's also a very unique story. Finishing your studies or quitting, and here you are as an entrepreneur now. So just give us a little bit of that insight.
Yes, I will do that. Well, yeah, quitting was never an option for me, but I was at the point where I had to put my studies on hold in the end of my master for a while because my father was terminally ill. You see him and me in the background on the poster. And my father passed away a few months before I finished my studies. So my father was the most important person in my life. So that was actually a very difficult time to deal with. And he was sick for 8 years. So during my studies, I was never a normal student. I was also very much involved in extra, like I was always working beside my study, but always was taking care of my father. And also did my internship in Suriname. And I had a very, very good relationship with him. So I discussed with him, well, I'm going to do my internship, but if I come back, you still have to be alive because I need to tell you how everything went. So we discussed that. And after I finished my internship in Suriname, he was there on the airport to pick me up. So that was a very nice moment that I remember very clear. But yeah, my studies, after I finished, I already had my job at SMS Attorneys. The firm does now not exist anymore. So, but I started with André Small and Myrtle Murray, and I came to Curaçao actually with only 2 suitcases and a labor agreement. So I did not know our people, our Curaçao people. I did not know the culture, and I thought, well, I'm a very social person, so I can easily connect with people. But that was actually not the case. So I had to go through some the inburgeringscursus, like I always call it. But actually, I did not give up, and well, it led me to where I am today, and still, like what Sueena was telling, that she had to take some steps back and almost lost herself in the process. I really can relate to that, and I really understand what you mean with that. And that is something that I always was very aware of, that could happen, and I never wanted to experience that. It was a challenging time, but you see, I'm talking a lot more than the question that you asked. But yeah, finishing my studies was very challenging, but I graduated on my father's birthday, so that was a very beautiful day for me.
That's a very unique story and very unique experience, and I heard the similarities between you two, but also the different stories. So for me, you were like the perfect fit to talk about that. Rianne, do you have any questions, any remarks about what you heard from the ladies?
No, I think that the remarks, I think Didi said that hearing Sueena's story confirmed for her that she was on the right path. And for me, actually, Sueena, hearing your story, it kind of confirmed some ideas that I had about the legal industry and how things are going, or people seeing certain things. So maybe that's not the right takeaway. But the way you ended the presentation with that quote, that was really recognizable. I work in a different industry, also worked on the Zuidas, so different industry, but still Zuidas. So I still recognize a lot of things and yeah, issues or trials and tribulations, how you would like to say it, that you encountered as well. So that is very inspirational. Didi, there's one thing that I had to note down, that was the force majeure, and I had to Google it actually in the meantime. What does it mean? But I looked at it, that it actually means just overmacht in Dutch, and then it clicked. So I had to look it up, and that's a great concept, as you already indicated. It's not a wild card, but something that I have to look into myself. So again, I've learned many things again during these presentations. And I also, in the chat section, to everyone listening still, feel free to ask any questions. So in the question section or just in the chat, anything that you would like to ask Didi or Sueena as well.
I have written down a couple of questions. Before we hear from the case from Sueena that she still wanted to share with us, my connection just interrupted me for a sec. Before I hear from the case that Sueena wanted to tell us about, I do want to know the answer because she didn't give that answer. Would you defend Shell?
You know what?
After oil spill.
We do actually advise a a company related to oil on the island. It depends. It really depends. Look, during my time as a commercial lawyer, no, I have to say it differently. During my studies, I had a very ideal vision of how the world would be. And I had my observations against the corporate industry. So the switch from human rights towards a commercial law firm was a very big one, which those partners during that interview really, ja, ze hebben het echt blootgelegd bij mij. Hè? Het pijnlijke punt. And what they forced me to do, because what I wanted was actually, I wanted to gain their knowledge. And after 3 years, I want to go back to the international world, right? I just wanted to have that step up. So that was case closed. You cannot do it. Think about it. Think about what you want. And when I entered into the law, I interned at one of the bigger firms as well there. I did not get a job there, the Brouw. And when I entered, and they are lawyers of Shell, and when I entered into the firm, for a very short period of time, I found those people so interesting and so diverse. And what is also very interesting is that after a couple of years, I came to understand that the partner of the other firm who rejected me was actually, he was a competition lawyer with a very big interest for environmental issues. So on his term, he was also an activist in that area. So it could be combined. And what I came to understand is that everything is a balance. So those corporations, they have a history. From the human rights angles, you have a vision, and you have to reach a balance. Would I defend Shell? I have to tell you right now, I actually would if I get the chance to teach them. The same way, and I heard Didi say the same thing. That's also how we, as within our firm, want to deal with our clients. We have to be able to sleep at night. If not, we will not take the case. It does not mean that we will not take a case which is a bit ticklish, right? But we will have to get the opportunity to educate the clients as well within our advices, our strategy, etc., etc. And I have a couple of examples. I cannot give you them on a name basis, but I have a couple of cases where the client comes with a very ticklish subject and wants to do something which I cannot sleep with at night, but in my strategy and my advice, I not only focus on the legal pointers, but also on the other interest at stake and try in that line of reasoning to debate with the client on what the best strategy is. And I can tell you that in certain cases, we definitely succeed within that part, educating the client. In some cases, we do not. And then if you cannot sleep at night, I will not I will not take the case, or I will give you your case back.
A question to both of you. What would be your dream case, a scenario that you would really like to work on? Do you have one?
You mean like a court case, or just a case where we enter as legal advisors?
Well, during our talk, we talked about that a little bit. We as outsiders think that being a lawyer is all about courts. I learned by speaking to you two ladies and some other lawyers it's not all about courts, but sometimes it's just about negotiations and things like that. So it can be anything that you say, like, I would really like to represent a musician, or you want to defend that big oil company, or you want to do that huge divorce where you get to do that mediation that gives the kids a good upbringing.
Yeah, well, actually, for me, I'm also in the management of the National Library on Curaçao, and that is for me one of my a great assignment, because there's need to be so much change within this organization, and you have to think about so many interests. So the interests of employees, but also the financial challenges that the library is facing. Also, how we can live up to the needs of our society and be important as a library. So and I see that also with clients who have, like, what I always call like family companies, who have a lot of different issues and questions that they not pay enough attention to, but they're growing in their business, and they have a lot of questions and need for structure, need for your business to go next level. Because what you always see, or what you see in most cases, when entrepreneurs start something, they're just good at it, right? So if it becomes bigger and if it becomes a success, then they think about, okay, but now I need to structure it, and how am I going to do that? So that kind of cases I love a lot. I love helping and guiding entrepreneurs. And indeed, I really advocate for business owners to approach lawyers in an earlier phase, so we can help you grow, so we can help think along with you, and without being afraid of that you have to put up your whole savings account to pay us, because that is like what Sueena also was saying. For us as legal experts, and that is what you also see in our business, if we have another structure in like what Ox and Wolf has, or what I have, that you as an entrepreneur do not have to fear that the expense, that it will be too expensive to approach us. And also not to fear that once we are done talking, that you have more questions arising than before you came to us talking. Right? So that is what we, and I guess that you also see it, Sueena, that obviously with I also respect the gevestigde orde, zoals, like I always call it, but I am not a fan of advices from 20, 30 pages, because I know that my clients do not interested in all our legal stuff, but they're interested in how they can move on, how they can make the next step. And these kind of cases where we can guide and we can advise and help grow businesses, or guide them through times like the pandemic, well, that's for me are cases that are very that I love to do.
Okay. Well, Rianne needs to leave us in a sec. She needs to move on. She's working on big projects outside of Innovation C. It's good to see someone from the diaspora come back to Curaçao, do amazing work here, and also be part of Innovation C. So, Rianne, thank you for that. Just before you go, I gonna copy and paste this link. Thanks to Rianne, we got to set this one up over here. When you have the chance, take a look at our Curaçao Pioneers poll that we're doing together with a lot of talented people, and with which you can also be part of. Rianne is one of the fruits from there. So Rianne, if you have to go, please feel free to go. Thank you very much, and
Thank
hope
you.
to see you. We'll talk soon.
We'll talk soon. So thank you, ladies. Thanks, Andy, and I'll speak to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. In the meanwhile, I'm gonna go to Sueena. Can you share with me what your dream case would be, or your dream court case, whatever that would be?
I was thinking about the question. I'm actually very happy with the mixture of cases I have right now. So my practice, I'm more a advice attorney. However, I do what they would call adviespraktijk. That's more my core business. But I do litigate as well. The clients that we represent right now are a mixture of private entities, government entities, international corporations, but also startups. So I like that mix. And it also gives me, as an entrepreneur, the chance to, due to the fact that we have some bigger clients, to invest in smaller clients, where we are able to offer them a more attractive price and to grow with them. So I like that I'm able to do that. What I enjoy right now the most type of work is the restructuring of companies who are challenged right now, either due to the pandemic, going to bankruptcy, or what we also focus on with the firm is companies under the supervision of the central bank who encounter issues. I think those are very interesting cases, very complex cases, which actually bring a lot of areas focus within the law together, and which give me a lot of challenge. And the fun part is as well that remember that I told you about the firm who rejected me a couple of years ago. The wonderful thing is that we're working together in these cases right now. So that is the world turns, and that's wonderful. So that's just a side note. But I like the variety, as I mentioned, practice that I have.
I love the inspiration in both your stories. That's not what you expect when you're going to talk about legal stuff, but that's what I did hope to bring across as a message to the people watching this now or replaying it later on our YouTube channel. So thank you for both of that. For Sueena, I mean, going from human rights to the mergers that you're doing now, it's totally not what I had in mind when I came to you. So thank you for sharing that, and for Didi. Once I contacted you, you came with a story from your study that I also did not expect at all, and both were so inspiring to me. We're gonna round this up in a little bit. We just got a few more minutes. The last question that I want to ask to both of you: how challenging is this pandemic for you to work now? You mentioned it already. Remote work was already something that you were doing. You both have the freedom to do that, but still, how challenging is doing your job right now as a lawyer in the legal world?
Yeah, well, actually, what I noticed was what Sueena was saying about balance, and that was also one of my intentions when I started my firm, to have more balance. And I always say to my boyfriend, yeah, next week I'm going to be less busy and just wait for this week to pass by. But we are very busy. Our firm is for 90% we do everything online, so we do not face the challenges as much as our clients. We do see that people have more issues with bill payments, but we can handle that very flexible, because obviously you can have your own policy as a business owner. But for me, actually, it's very busy, so that is a challenge itself. But I don't know if that is something, yeah, obviously due to the pandemic, you get other questions, but I believe that still on our island, we have more need for legal guidance than that we have the lawyers that can take all of these cases. So I believe that everyone in our field is very busy, and that also goes for us. So that is my challenge, still seeking that balance, and at this moment I believe it comes when it comes. I try to take the Saturday off and then work on the Sunday, but that is a challenge, and I'm working on that one. But work based on the work, well, I do not face challenges due to the pandemic, because people are in uncertain situations.
And for you, Sueena?
Yes, the same with us. Our firm was also not really affected into workflow by the pandemic. In case of bill payments, we do see some delay, of course. If there's one thing that was challenging for me in the pandemic and remote working, was during the lockdown. I'm a mother of two. Everyone at home, work continues. That was challenging. So how to find a balance again at home, how to give the attention to your children, how to make sure that both you and your partner can get the work done, has to be done. So the support system, communication, and the focus on the children is very important. Since I have already been personal, let me be a little bit more personal. You see me right now, I am at home, and normally I would have had a room in the house with my office, but that doesn't work when the children are here. So right now, you see that little building right there?
Yes.
Yeah. We just built that into a little office, so that once, so that the remote working can really be remote and at ease when the children are at home. So that was a challenge. That was a challenge, really. But I have to say, it was also a good, the reshift's not the word I want to use. It was a good reset for us all to understand that we are humans first. We are, in my case, family first, and that we have to rethink the priorities, right? And that that attention at home with your loved ones is also important. And there, where in the past it would have been almost an issue if you were in a conference call and your children would come into the call or in a Zoom meeting or whatever. Right now, it's normal, and everyone has to understand, and it should be normal. It should be normal. So I'm also happy for that experience, but it still doesn't mean that I need some quiet.
Yeah. The whole idea of what we're doing is also to show that we're all professionals, but we also have this human side. So and I think that came across today. I thank you very much both for your presentations and your presence. I'm just going to share our social links for the people that want to join us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. You can read on our website other blogs that other guests have written, or you can watch other digital conferences that we've done. We hope soon to do more workshops. We're working on that very hard. We're going to change platforms very soon. There are a lot of changes coming. But thanks to Curaçao and thanks to Active Chance, we have the opportunity to continue this year with this amazing job. And I'm very honored to be able to be your host for almost a year already. The time has flown, and it's ridiculously how a pandemic has brought one of the most beautiful challenges on my that I've enjoyed very much. So with that being said, ladies, I'm going to thank you very much, both of you and Didi, for being present. Rianne already left, and to all the people that are still left in the chat, thank you very much. You can watch the replay as soon as this finishes, and soon we'll also publish this on our YouTube channel. That's it from me. Ladies, any last words?
Thank you, Andy, for the invitation.
Yes.
You're very welcome. I wish you both a very good afternoon, and ciao, everyone. Peace out.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.